No one saw it coming. Not the fans packed into Sophie's Stadium, not Caesar herself, and certainly not Hailey Bieber. But on the night of May 23rd, something unexpected happened. Justin Bieber made a surprise appearance during Caesar's live performance. It should have been a simple duet. Instead, it became the spark that reignited a wildfire of rumors, fan theories, and emotional speculation. The moment Justin stepped on stage and began performing Snooze alongside Caesar, the crowd erupted, not just for the music, but for the energy between them. At one point, Caesar gently held Justin's chin and he responded with a soft smile before kissing her hand again and again. It was tender. It was intimate. And it was instantly viral. Within minutes, the internet was on fire. Clips of the performance flooded social media, but the focus quickly shifted. It wasn't just about the music anymore. It was about what Justin was showing on that stage, and what he wasn't showing in his own marriage. Fans started pointing out something uncomfortable. He could be so affectionate with another woman on stage. So gentle, so present, yet when it came to Hailey, his own wife, that same softness often seemed absent. And just when the whispers started gaining volume, Justin left another unexpected comment online, this time under photos of actress Ariana Greenblatt, a young star often compared to Selena Gomez. "I love you," he wrote. A simple sentence, but the weight of it felt anything but casual. And then, as if perfectly timed, Selena Gomez posted a message. No names, no tagging. Just a quiet, powerful reminder. You matter. Your voice matters. Your heart matters. It wasn't directed at anyone, but it didn't have to be. Fans immediately felt the subtext. Was it a show of support for Hailey? A nod to her own past pain? Or was it something else entirely? A message sent through silence from someone who's been through the fire herself. This wasn't just a performance. It was the beginning of a new chapter in an already tangled narrative. And tonight, we're unpacking everything. The moment, the message, the marriage, and the painful echoes from a past that refuses to stay buried. What really made this moment explode wasn't just the surprise performance or the subtle affection. It was the contrast. Fans couldn't stop comparing how Justin treats other women in public versus how he treats Hailey. They remembered how reserved he seemed when Hailey landed her American Vogue cover, one of the biggest milestones of her career. Instead of showering her with admiration, Justin's caption took a strange turn. He didn't simply celebrate her achievement. He brought up a past fight. He confessed that, once upon a time, he told Hailey she'd never make it onto the cover of Vogue because he felt disrespected and wanted to get back at her. And though he ended the post with an apology, saying, "Forgive me for saying that. I was so wrong." The damage, in the eyes of many, was already done. Her big moment, once again, had been reshaped by his past anger. People didn't miss the pattern. This wasn't the first time Justin had drawn more attention to himself than to his wife. Around the same time as the Caesar performance, he also commented, "I love you" under Ariana Greenblatt's Instagram photos, an actress many fans say looks eerily similar to Selena Gomez. Not only had Ariana worked with Justin before, but her styling in the pictures reminded fans of Selena's early 2010s look. The soft waves, the subtle eyeliner, the expression that carried just enough mystery. The timing was suspicious. The comparisons? Inevitable. Especially when fans pulled up how cold and distant Justin's messages had seemed when Hailey was the one in the spotlight dot, and then, almost poetically, Selena entered the conversation, not with drama, not with a name drop, but with words that stung in their gentleness. "You are worth more than you know." It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't even clear who it was for. But in the context of everything happening, fans felt the weight. Some believed it was her way of standing with Hailey, showing grace to someone now walking a road she once had to survive. Others wondered if it was a message to herself, a reminder she once needed too. Or maybe it was a message for Justin, because when it comes to Justin and Selena, the echoes never really fade. The pain that shaped their past, the emotional wounds that played out in public, they still haunt every new chapter he writes, especially the ones he writes with Hailey. So when Selena liked Sephora's announcement about Rhode, Hailey's skincare brand, fans didn't see it as a random gesture. They saw it as something deeper, maybe a show of support. Maybe a subtle signal that she doesn't want this cycle of women being pitted against each other to continue. Or maybe She just understands the kind of pain Hailey might be hiding behind a perfect photo. But that wasn't the only post from Selena that raised eyebrows. Just a few hours after the Sephora like, she shared another message, this one even more cryptic, but hauntingly emotional. If you could erase one person's deepest pain, who would you choose and why? It was a sentence meant to make people think, but online it triggered something else entirely. Fans instantly connected it to her past with Justin, a relationship marked by public breakups, emotional volatility, and a sense of unfinished wounds. Some believed she was speaking about herself, longing to undo the years of hurt she carried in silence. Others thought she might be speaking about him, the boy she once loved who never seemed to escape his own chaos. And some went a step further, wondering if she was reaching across time and space to acknowledge the pain Hailey might now be living with, the pain of standing beside someone who seems to be emotionally elsewhere, because for all the curated posts and polished photos, the cracks in Justin and Hailey's public image keep widening. And it's not just in what's being said, it's in the timing, the tone, the patterns. Fans haven't forgotten that Justin married Hailey just 6 months after being seen publicly with Selena. That abrupt switch still lingers in people's minds as a sign that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't fully healed. That the relationship wasn't born out of peace, but out of something more desperate, the need to move on before confronting the past. And now, years later, those unresolved emotions are leaking out in unexpected ways. Selena's past comments haven't helped dissolve that tension either. When fans once asked if she and Justin might ever reunite, her reply was cutting. "No, babe, he prefers models. I'm just too normal." In another reply, she doubled down. "He's happier with models." The words stung not because they were cruel, but because they were soaked in raw, unfiltered self-awareness. They hinted at the deep insecurity that came from constantly being compared, from watching someone you loved choose a life that didn't include you, and then watching it fall apart from a distance. These aren't just celebrity posts anymore. They've become a breadcrumb trail of emotional fallout, one that fans follow like detectives, piecing together the silence between the captions, the pauses in the interviews, the lyrics that feel too personal to be fiction. And now, as Justin moves through a turbulent year with awkward Mother's Day messages, lukewarm responses to Hailey's big moments, and lyrics that sound more like confessions than pop songs, people are beginning to ask, is he finally breaking under the weight of everything he never truly faced? Things only grew messier when Justin publicly showed support for Chris Brown again. Just days after the Caesar moment and the Ariana comment, Justin left a message under Chris Brown's Instagram post, writing, "Welcome home," after the artist was released on bail. The reason? A violent 2023 incident in London that left a producer emotionally traumatized and physically injured. It wasn't just the timing that shocked fans, it was the message itself. Welcome home. It sounded casual, dismissive, almost celebratory, and it came from someone who had, for years, tried to repair his own broken image. The backlash was instant and intense. People weren't just upset, they were hurt. Especially when they remembered that this wasn't the first time Justin had thrown public support behind Chris Brown. Back in 2019, he made headlines by comparing Brown to Michael Jackson and Tupac. In a now-deleted post, he called Chris one of the greatest entertainers of all time while brushing off his past as a mistake. That mistake, of course, was the brutal 2009 assault on Rihanna, a moment that defined Brown's reputation for years. Justin initially wrote "Love you, Chris Brown," and even mentioned how people overlook talent because of one mistake. But after facing backlash, he edited the caption to tone it down. The damage, though, was done, and people didn't forget, especially not now, when his words seem colder toward his own wife than they do toward a known abuser. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Fans pointed out the glaring imbalance, how Justin can speak with warmth and affection toward controversial figures, former flings, or complete strangers. But when it comes to Hailey, his praise feels filtered, restrained, even strategic. One comment summed up the frustration perfectly: more support for an abuser than for your own wife. And as this narrative gained traction, it clashed with a moment that should have been Hailey's triumph, her first American Vogue cover. In the feature, she spoke candidly about becoming a mother, launching her skincare brand, and building a life with Justin. On the surface, it was a celebration. But Justin's reaction, instead of uplifting her, pulled fans back into the same emotional contradiction. Rather than simply posting a message of pride, he dredged up a past argument, reminding the world that he once told Hailey she'd never be on the cover of Vogue. He tried to frame it as growth, a lesson learned through love and maturity. But many saw it differently. They saw a man making his partner's success about himself, turning a hard-earned milestone into a footnote in his own redemption arc. Even when he apologized in the same caption, writing, "Forgive me for saying that," the moment felt diluted. Hailey's victory had been reshaped, once again, by Justin's need to confront or control the narrative. This is what fans keep circling back to: the gap between Justin's words and his actions, between his declarations of love and the passive-aggressive undertones that follow, between his carefully crafted image of growth and the moments where that mask seems to slip. And as more people start pulling at those threads, analyzing every lyric, every post, every interview, the question becomes harder to avoid. Is Justin Bieber really the devoted husband he claims to be? Or is he still the same confused, emotionally volatile young man who never truly left his past behind? It's impossible to talk about all of this, the subtle jabs, the public contradictions, the lingering tension, without eventually circling back to the one chapter Justin can't seem to escape: Selena Gomez, because the pain between them wasn't just personal, it was public, dissected, and immortalized by fans, interviews, and lyrics that still sting. And while Justin has never directly addressed everything that happened between them, Selena did. In 2020, during a candid interview with NPR, she finally named what millions had long suspected. When asked about her past relationship, one that left her visibly bruised emotionally, she paused. The interviewer gently asked, "Was it emotional abuse?" And Selena said it, softly but clearly, "Yes." That single word changed everything. Suddenly, all those cryptic lyrics, the tears during performances, the subtle messages, they weren't just dramatic fragments of pop star heartbreak. They were survival stories. Wounds she hadn't been allowed to call by name until she finally could. She didn't go into graphic detail and she didn't drag anyone through the mud, but she didn't have to. The truth hung heavy in the air, and the public knew who she was talking about because they had watched it unfold. The late-night Instagram posts, on-again, off-again headlines. The interviews where she tried to stay composed while her voice cracked mid-sentence, and above all, the music. Songs like "The Heart Wants What It Wants" weren't just pop ballads. They were confessions. The spoken word intro alone told you everything. The ache of being with someone who made her feel small, unseen, replaceable, yet still impossibly needed. She talked about being on stage, performing through heartbreak, feeling like she had to give her entire soul to someone who only gave back fragments in return. And the thing is, people believed her. Because even if you didn't know the full story, you could feel it, in her voice, in her eyes, in the way she'd go quiet when asked about him, as though the past still lived in the spaces between her words. So when she posted a message about wanting to erase someone's pain, and when she liked the Sephora post about Hailey's brand, fans weren't just speculating, they were remembering. They were connecting the dots between past abuse and present patterns. Between the girl who once whispered, "He doesn't see me," and the woman now watching another girl go through the same storm. And maybe that's why it hits so hard. Because now, Justin is the one sending mixed signals. He posts about love and vulnerability, but his actions seem cold. He calls Hailey the best thing that ever happened to him, but tells stories that belittle her. He shares public affection with other women, but rarely shows up emotionally when it matters most. And the more fans watch this unfold, the more they begin to wonder, is history repeating itself? Just with different names, different covers, different captions? Justin's actions in the past few months have left fans questioning not just his emotional maturity, but his entire image as a husband, a partner, even a person still processing regret. One of the most confusing moments came during what should have been a heartfelt occasion, Hailey's first Mother's Day. Instead of posting something warm or supportive, Justin uploaded a strangely distant message. "Love all moms but mothers. They suck." There was no mention of Hailey, no celebration, no tenderness, just a sentence that felt more like a complaint than a tribute. The timing was hard to ignore. This wasn't just any Mother's Day, it was Hailey's first while pregnant. It should have been a moment of emotional closeness, a gesture that acknowledged the life they were about to bring into the world. But instead, the post added more fuel to the growing belief that something is off. It didn't help that shortly. After a thread went viral online, one listing all the times Justin had publicly embarrassed or dismissed Hailey. From awkward red carpet moments where he walked away from her, to Instagram lives where he seemed irritated or detached, to interviews where he praised other women while barely acknowledging his wife, the pattern was hard to ignore. One user even included screenshots from 2016 when Justin praised Kendall Jenner for a magazine cover with over-the-top admiration. Yet years later, when Hailey finally got her own Vogue cover, he made it all about a fight they had. He didn't celebrate her win, he turned it into a confession, and while some fans have tried to defend him, saying he's just quirky or not great with words, others are no longer buying that excuse. Because this isn't a one-off moment, it's a recurring emotional absence. And when it comes from someone who constantly posts about love, growth, and becoming a better man, the contradictions start to feel like more than just personality quirks. They start to look like warning signs. Even Kim Kardashian briefly liked that odd Mother's Day post before quietly unliking it, possibly after realizing how tone-deaf it was. That one interaction alone sparked comparisons between Justin and another famous ex with a history of online chaos, Kanye West. Suddenly, people weren't just talking about Justin as a husband. They were comparing him to men whose public meltdowns have damaged their relationships, their reputations, and their families. And just like that, the narrative around Justin and Hailey shifted from awkward moments to something darker: emotional neglect, resentment, and the quiet unraveling of a relationship that once seemed bulletproof on the outside. Even Hailey's own behavior hasn't escaped scrutiny. In a Vogue "What's in My Bag" video, she joked about having multiple phones to check up on other girls with fake accounts. It was clearly meant as a light moment, a laugh, a wink to the online rumors. But it didn't land that way. In the context of the whispers surrounding her relationship, it felt less like a joke and more like a window into insecurity. She even mentioned her dad once taking her to a witch for a love potion to win over a Canadian pop star. Everyone knew who she was talking about, and suddenly it didn't feel funny. It felt like someone trying to cope with the growing noise around a marriage that just keeps getting harder to defend. Despite the headlines, despite the silence, despite the speculation, Hailey hasn't stayed completely quiet. In a recent Vogue interview, her tone changed. The jokes faded. The filters came off. What she shared wasn't angry, but it was undeniably raw. She admitted that even after 7 years with Justin, after marriage, after pregnancies, after building a business, the hate still follows her. It lingers in our comments and fan threads and whispered comparisons to Selena. She said she thought it would die down by now. But it hasn't. You'd think it would stop, she said. But people are still angry. And that anger, even if it's not hers, lives around her, shaping the way people see her every post, every smile, every outfit, every word. Hailey continues to present a life of calm, family, friends, love, normalcy. But the cracks are hard to hide when Justin's own words seem to tear through that calm like paper. Because just as she tries to show peace, he releases a song like Messy, and the lyrics, they say everything he won't say aloud. I'm too messy and then I'm too clean. I want to be me, is that not allowed? It's not just a song, it's a confession. A man asking for permission to fall apart. A man who seems to be saying, I'm lost and I don't know how to hold the people I love without dropping pieces of myself. And that's what fans keep noticing, the weight of contradiction. One moment, Justin posts a beautiful caption about his wife. The next, he admits to having once tried to hurt her on purpose. He praises her beauty, then reminds her she once wasn't enough for him. He speaks about healing, then aligns himself with men the world hasn't forgiven. And now, in Messy, he gives language to his internal chaos, a song that feels less like a hit and more like a plea. But here's where it gets even more tangled, that same song? Selena once shared it, years ago, during a time when she too was feeling overwhelmed. She had posted it while crying over immigrant families being separated, using it as an anthem for vulnerability and brokenness. Back then, she was criticized, called too dramatic, too emotional, too much. But now, as Justin uses the same track to tell his story, the criticism is gone. Instead, fans see it as brave. The double standard isn't lost on anyone, and that's why this story refuses to fade. Because it's not just about Selena. It's not just about Hailey. It's not even just about Justin. It's about the emotional history that connects them. The words left unsaid, the damage still echoing, the love stories that ended but never fully closed. And now, with every Instagram post, every cryptic lyric, every quietly powerful message from Selena, the question gets louder. Is this love? Or is this still grief dressed up as commitment? So here we are, years after the first heartbreak, the first headline, the first Instagram storm. And somehow the story still isn't over. Justin is married, Selena has moved on, Hailey is starting a family. But emotionally, something still lingers. Not just between them, but in the space they've occupied for over a decade, the cultural obsession, the public speculation, the deeply personal moments turned into global conversations. Maybe that's why every new post, every subtle gesture, every shift in tone hits so hard. Because people aren't just watching for drama, they're watching for answers, for closure, for proof that love can survive the wreckage of its own past. But what they're getting instead are fragments of apologies, of regrets, of confessions buried inside music and interviews that never say too much, yet somehow say everything. And maybe that's the real tragedy here. Not the failed relationships, not the emotional scars, but the fact that no one seems free. Not Selena, still navigating the shadow of who she once loved. Not Hailey, constantly proving she deserves the space she's in. And not Justin, who, despite the success, the marriage, the stage lights, still looks like someone trying to make peace with a version of himself he can't quite outrun. It's messy, it's confusing, it's human, and maybe, just maybe, that's why we can't look away.